matters is, how do we take back our streets? And that's what men have been doing, going around talking to these young men where they are in their face and letting them know you can't control this community.
Some strong comments from my old colleague, former Maryland Congressman Kwesi Mfume, there on CNN as people in Baltimore tried to recover from the riots this week. Let's continue now on Newsmax Prime. Baltimore, just the latest city to erupt in violence. This happened in the wake of the death of Freddie Gray, a black man who died while in police custody. In the wake of the riots, many pundits attributed the violence to economic grievance. But is that really the case? Joining us now, the pastor and co-founder of Antioch Assembly, Pastor Joe Green. Pastor, we thank you for Skyping in from Harrisburg, PA. And according to reports in the video we saw from Baltimore, a whole lot of young people were involved in this initial violence. Why do you think so many youngsters stepped in to take a violent approach?
Well, thank you for having me on the program. I believe personally it has very little to do with economics, and it's more of a culture that, our young people right now have a culture of violence and kind of aggression. I think that that's just coming to the surface, and this is just a side effect of really what's going on in the hearts of some of our young people this day and age. And the reason I say it has nothing to do with economics is because, in 2015, we have probably more economic resources in our community than we ever have, but yet the level of violence is still escalating.
And the irony is, as you're speaking, Pastor, we take a look at some video, people out with their cell phones and the video equipment there taking pictures of the cars ablaze. So certainly people have access to high-tech gadgetry and other things to utilize even in the most underprivileged neighborhood. Pastor, people in sociology and politics like to talk about root causes. If it's not exclusively money, in your opinion, sir, what is it?
Well, I do believe that there is a certain level of disenfranchisement. Now, economically in the black community, we do have a lot of resources. And, from my experience working with young people, I have a mentoring program that I work with young people on a regular basis. And most of them that you see doing these things, you can look, they might have one or two pair of $150 pair of sneakers on, iPhones, and all those type of things. But there's a certain level of disenfranchisement. Part of it may be from the communities around them. There is a certain level of racism that's still prevalent in certain areas. But we also have to look at internal issues that we have in the community and how we are kind of meditating and gravitating on things that are not productive. If you listen to the music and the culture that these young people are a part of, most of it talks about criminal behavior or aggression and misogyny and all these type of things that just breed negative and hateful mindsets. So I think it has to start with internally. What are we doing? What are we looking at? What are we meditating on as young people? And then also address the issues of, why a certain community feels disenfranchised. So
fair enough, Pastor. I apologize for interrupting. The time is growing short, and you're talking about one-on-one interpersonal encounters with troubled or challenged youth. It's interesting to get the perception from pundits and political figures who are rushing out to talk about Baltimore and claim the rioting and looting is part of a deeper problem within the black community. Let's take a listen to what Senator Harry Reid had to say, and I'd like to get your reaction after we listen to him.
That millions of Americans feel powerless in the face of a system that is rigged against them. It's easy to feel powerless when you see the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. The opportunities to build a better life for yourself and your family are non-existent in your community.
So Senator Reid apparently believes it's up to Washington to pass laws and in that way try to create jobs so people could stop rioting. Do you agree with that notion that Washington has to lead?
Absolutely not. It's not Washington's problem. The only thing I believe that the federal government should be is a referee, just to make sure that the playing field is level. But at the end of the day, it's our responsibility as a community to kind of help each other and encourage each other and empower each other. If you look at other minority groups, whether it's the Asians, whether it's the Jewish community, and all these other groups have been at one point in time persecuted as well. Now, you can argue the level of persecution. I'm not arguing that. but it took a unified effort among their community to come together and to push for opportunities.
Understood, Pastor. And while we have you, we have less than a minute. I'd like to get 30 seconds on the whole notion of same-sex marriage. The Supreme Court heard the case yesterday. Do you think religious leaders will use civil disobedience if the court okays gay marriage?
Well, I think they do. I think if you look at all the states that have actually, the majority of states, I should say, where same-sex marriage is legal, like Pennsylvania, the majority of people voted for protection of marriage, but it was one activist judge that went in and overturned the will of the people. So I believe if it comes to that is something we should make our voices be heard. It's not the federal government's right to push.
And on that note, Pastor, I hate to cut you off. Be assured your voice was heard, and we thank you for your time. We're coming right back.